What up, what up, what up? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ. My boy Cody. We are the Fantasy Heat Check. Week 3 is here. What's going on, my boy?
Oh, dude, I tell you what, you're talking about a heat check, but it is chilly as hell outside, at least here in the Midwest. It's finally starting to feel like fall. Of course, that comes with all the sniffles and everything. I'm a little under the weather, but as far as our injury lookout goes, I'm feeling a lot better than a lot of these guys, especially the quarterbacks this week. Jeez, man. Talk about a terrible week to be a quarterback.
Yeah, hellstorm. They had a target on their back. A lot of quarterbacks injured. Some of them beat up, bumped up, and actually got back in the game. And it's like, are you sure you want to do that? But I'm only talking about Baker. That was amazing, though. I mean, he actually stiff-armed a guy the very next drive, with the messed up arm. So shout out to him.
Grit.
That's real grit. But let's get into some of these injuries, man. Not really an injury, but Antonio Brown on the COVID list. I don't know if he's vaccinated. He has a possibility coming back Friday if he is vaccinated. He has 2 negative tests, but there's still no word on it. It's Thursday. I'm not going to dig too deep into it, but most likely, let's just say Antonio Brown is not playing Sunday.
Yeah, so the Buccaneers actually are one of the rosters that have 100% vaccination rate amongst the NFL teams. So he is vaccinated, but he does have to show 2 negative COVID tests within 24 hours. And his first COVID test was positive. So it's a positive test. It's not a close contact or anything like that. So I would be very, very hesitant to rely on Antonio Brown this week. Now, obviously wait until Sunday and see whether or not he's in or out. But even if he's in, if he's, recovering from COVID, might not be the best play this week. No, sir. I would leave him on my bench.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave him on your bench. I mean, where he was going in drafts, the price you paid for him was pretty late, probably like the 10th, 11th round, or maybe around like that. And so you probably have a guy that you could plug and play. Hopefully it's a DJ Chark or a Marvin Jones or any of those guys out of Rems. I know I just named 2 people on the same team, but those are the people in that tier that you could just plug and play that have good matchups this week. So, yeah, moving on to the next one. Can we honestly start any of these 49er running backs? They're all beat up, man. Hasty's beat up, Mitchell dealing with a shoulder injury, et cetera, man. It's just a Ferris wheel of just injured running backs, just going on over there in San Fran.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, week 3, I'm not confident in starting any of them. And I understand that, they're playing the Packers on Sunday night. Like it's a primetime game. I just don't feel confident. I know Swift put up good numbers against that Packers defense last week, but I'm just not confident that they're going to rely on one running back enough for them to be fantasy relevant this week. A guy I am looking for, though, Jacquez Patrick, is a guy that they signed off of the Bengals practice squad. Pretty decent player, pretty solid in pass pro. So he's a guy that if you're in a deeper league, I might just stash on your bench and see if he gets any run this week. You never know. But yeah, that is a mess that I don't want to be a part of right now.
Hell no. I do not want any smoke. From the beginning, though, I kind of just didn't want any of this to go on. Week 1 was cool, but after seeing week 2 and then just more injuries and more situations, more running backs getting signed, et cetera, I just don't want the headache, man. It's too early to be dealing with all this stuff. It's only 2 weeks into it. We're into week 3 now. Can we honestly imagine what that backfield looks like week 10? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, but it's going to be tough. But we got some good injury news. Odell Beckham Jr. is slated to play this week. Odds are you probably got him as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, depending on where you drafted him.
If you knew what you were doing. There's some people that got him as a wide receiver 2, so let's not exit those people out. They're in pain right now.
Yeah, that is tough. That being said, am I going to start him this week? No. The Bears defense, while it's not the Bears defense of old, it's still pretty solid. I think that game is going to be fairly low scoring. He's coming off a pretty tough injury last year. So I think they might ease him in. I don't think the Browns are gonna rely on him this week. So he's staying on my bench, but it is good to see him at least back onto the football field.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's good just to see that he's back, he's healthy, he's able to suit up. For fantasy, though, it's like if you had the grapes to draft him, you had the grapes to start him this week. That's how I look at it. I mean, you just got to take it. You just got to take it because
bro, I saw that tweet. I was like, bro, what are you talking? Grapes.
You got the grapes to draft, and you got the grapes to start on. I feel like he's a playmaker. I would never talk down on that man's talent, but it's just for fantasy. I can't invest in him, and we are obviously seeing why. We're seeing how it plays out. So I definitely agree with you. They're gonna just basically ease him in. This isn't a full send situation where he comes and puts up 70 yards, 1 touchdown, like 6 catches. That's not one of the situations right now. This is a situation where he could possibly end up with 4 targets, 3 catches, and probably less than like 40 yards. That's probably something we're probably going to see, which you should be happy with because you're seeing him getting back into groove. Now, if he blows up and he's on your bench, what did you draft him for? Why did you draft him? So I feel like you're in a situation now where you have to start him because you're not going to start Nelson Aguilar another week again. You're not going to start, some nobody, some Brandon Ayuk guy. You're not going to start him once you got Odell Beckham back and healthy. So you might as well throw him in your starting lineup.
Fair. Speaking of starting or starters that are in a tough spot. All right, so obviously the big one is not necessarily because Andy Dalton's the big injury news here, but more so because it brings Justin Fields in. I am not starting Justin Fields this week. He did not look good last week. I understand that he came in with no preparation, but that Browns defense is one that can force turnovers. I'm just not super confident in him this week. Where are you sitting Justin Fields? You starting Justin Fields? Where you feel?
If I'm in a situation that I am in multiple leagues where I'm stuck with Easton or I'm stuck with Mills, and it's like, yeah, I got to start Fields. I have to for the simple fact I don't really have a reason not to because it's kind of like what we all been waiting for.
Yeah,
and he brings the rushing upside. Yeah, he has the rushing upside, and it's like, hey, he had 10 rushing attempts that game alone, and it's like, okay, well, if he can keep on running, keep getting me points, the touchdowns will come. I think he just needs the reps, but I do agree with you. This will be a hard task for him to put up big points. At like 20 points to me from Fields this week, that's a win. That's definitely a win to me. You know what I mean? Like 20 points is definitely a win. But I'm not going to say that's an easy cakewalk for him to go and do that, against this Browns defense. So it's kind of fingers crossed situation, but all of us can stop complaining. Our feet can stop looking like Andy Dalton, Matt Nagy, Andy Dalton. Justin Fields is on the field. Let's clean slate it and just let him work.
Bro, for Matt Nagy to say, hey, but when healthy, Andy Dalton's still our starting quarterback. All right, pal. None of us believe you. Not one person believes you. But
not one person believes you. Like, why would you do that? If Fields wins the next 3 weeks, how could you even go back to be like, yeah, I said this and meant this? Like, no. Yeah. He's obviously the better quarterback.
Yep. So some other starting quarterbacks that went down. Carson Wentz went down for the Colts. The only really fantasy relevant wide receiver or pass catcher in that offense, period, outside of Nyheim Hines, who should still if you were starting Nyheim Hines before, you're still starting him now. Yep. Right. That Eason will still dump the ball off to him. The only one I think it really hurts is Michael Pittman. But if you were relying on relying on him as a starter week to week, you were already in a tough spot. So I would look elsewhere outside of Michael Pittman this week. Another quarterback situation out for a couple weeks. It looks like down in Miami is Tua Tagovailoa with some fractured ribs.
I like how you delivered that.
Bro, see, I can articulate the words. My brain doesn't work real well, but my mouth runs. How do we feel about Tua going into how do we feel about this Dolphins offense knowing that Jacoby Brissett is going to be at the helm?
They're all going to suffer, especially Waddle. I think I started Waddle once in my Scott Fishbowl league, and I think it was the week where he got the touchdown. Was it last week or was it week 1? It might have been last week.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
It might have been week 2. It doesn't matter, but I feel like the build up for Waddle to be, this wide receiver 1, even though Parker's there, obviously I understand he's a wide receiver 1, but they still have the same target share. So I feel like they're going to suffer a ton. Myles Gaskins has been mid, at most mid for the last couple of weeks. Back-to-back games, less than 10 carries, but he's supposed to be this workhorse. So I think that offense as a whole is a fade. They're going to suffer, and it's a little alarming that Tuna is week to week. I honestly was expecting to see him on IR because the initial report had us thinking like, shit, he's done. You know what I mean? Like, but we should.
Yeah, and the other thing too that throws a wrinkle into this Dolphins offense is that it looks like Will Fuller is back this week. I don't know if he was dealing with a personal issue or something last week that caused him to miss that game. And then obviously he missed the first game with his suspension that carried over from last year. So I want to see how the ball moves around in this Dolphins offense before I'm willing to stake any fantasy relevance on it right now. Especially in week 3.
I wouldn't gamble with Jacoby Brissett. In no way or shape or form do I think, he's a liable, quarterback that can make relevant points for our wide receivers and running backs. So clear fade.
Yep, for sure. And then the other starting quarterback that went down this week, Tyrod Taylor. We weren't starting any Texans pass catchers outside of Brandon Cooks anyway. If you were starting Brandon Cooks, I still feel fine about Brandon Cooks. I think this might be a tough week for that Texans offense. Davis Mills, new into the system, short week, Thursday night against what has been an incredible defense for these Carolina Panthers.
They're underrated right now.
Are you willing to start Brandon Cooks this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I still think he's a good fantasy option regardless. He's already proven to us with a Tyrod Taylor, he's QB proof. Like, we all had that narrative in the offseason. Like, he played with elite quarterbacks, Brady, basically Sean McVay. I'm not saying golf, but Drew Brees and et cetera. But I still think he is the guy no matter what going up to you. Did we see like in week 1 when he jumped up to get the ball over 2 defenders? Like, the dude's like 5'4" doing this. So like, like he's a must start.
Okay, now I gotta look.
I think he's like legit, probably like 5'10". I'm being over.
He is 5'10".
There we go.
5'10". See, okay, you know your fantasy, man.
I know my heights.
Yeah,
but I still feel like he's a solid start, flex play if anything. I mean, again, the price that you got for him, you most likely already had him on your bench going into week 1, so it's a full send.
Yep, and I agree. LQ, is there anything else from week 2 that you want to touch on before we hit into our next topic?
Not really. To be honest, week 2 just made me more confused about the season, than week 1. I was just really more confused about the things that were going on to like, okay, well, this is a brand new season.
Yeah,
just kill every narrative possible. But so hopefully week 3 we get more of traction to what's really going on with our running backs, quarterbacks, and of course our tight ends as well.
I agree. My man, Chris Robin, love the guy. I am slightly worried about my AJ Brown being a top 4 wide receiver after the first 2 weeks, but we'll see. Yeah. I'm not losing faith in AJ Brown.
It's only 2 weeks of football. That's what everybody forgets. Like, we cannot panic. It's 2 weeks. That's it. When we start panicking, let's wait until like week 6 or 8. Week 6, 7, and 8, where we can have these panic, buttons. Like, all right, this is it. This guy has to go. So I think we need to just relax. It's only 2 games.
The words of Aaron Rodgers, relax. All right. Speaking
safe there, Cody. Yeah, I agree. He's safe. He's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy.
All right. So a running back situation that, quite frankly, I did not think we would be talking about, but
no,
it's here. It's relevant. It's in our face, and we have to address it. Tony Pollard has outscored Ezekiel Elliott through 2 weeks.
It sounds disgusting.
How do we feel about before we dump down Ezekiel Elliott's throat, right? I think this honestly has a lot to do with Tony Pollard being pretty damn good at football.
Yes. Yes, that's what it is. He's good at football, and it's not exactly a problem because it's like Zeke is still somewhat throwing punches as well. He's still coexisting. Like Zeke still had like 17 fantasy points compared to Tony Pollard's 20. So it's like, hey, they both can coexist. A lot of people that have Zeke, their expectations are high. Obviously, because he's a first round pick, and Tony Pollard being close to cheap as hell. And a lot of people are reaping the benefits. So the comparison that we've been seeing for the past couple of days, maybe the past week, is a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combination. Do I agree with that comparison? No, not really. I don't. I think Kareem Hunt and Chubb carved their way. They earned their path. They earned that title to be that 1-2 punch that's actually lightning and thunder actually working. So I think we can discount week 1 with Zeke because, again, he had a good game in real life, passing assignments, pass blocking assignments, picking up the blitz, et cetera, protecting Dak for a very tough, Bucs defense. So, again, we can't look at the numbers and say, hey, Zeke is a problem. He's having issues because at the end of the day, he's still the lead back. He's still the RB1 for the Cowboys.
Hey, follow that volume. While Tony Pollard has looked good, Zeke is still leading that backfield in touches. So I just don't think it's going to be as clear of a lead as, or a workhorse as we've thought in the past. Like,
because honestly, there is a gap.
Zeke has been a 300 touch guy, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he still is. Yeah. There's still that gap though. If we want to take that comparison between Chubb and Hunt, like a huge gap. Like Chubb is still the guy. Hunt just puts little sprinkles on the donut. Like we all like donuts, we love treats and stuff. He drops the sprinkles on there from week to week, and that's a touchdown. What I'm basically saying.
Yep. I'm hoping we see a little more out of Kareem Hunt in the passing game with Jarvis Landry being out.
Yeah,
we'll see. Talk about another fantasy injury. Jarvis Landry moving to IR. Tough for fantasy managers.
That's tough.
All right, so feeling good, feeling loose. All right, we got football tonight.
Yes, we do.
LQ, we got some bold predictions. We got some best bets.
Bring them back.
I'm going to say one of mine first. I'm going to start with a best bet because I feel really good about this one. Lions, Ravens over 49.5. If you have fantasy players in that game, you are starting them. You're starting Hollywood Brown. You're starting, quite frankly, I wouldn't shy away from starting Sammy Watkins in a 3 wide receiver league.
Yeah.
Swift, you're starting Tyson Williams. Obviously, you're starting Lamar. Like, there are going to be a ton of points scored in this game. In all 4 games that these two teams have played, right? So 2 each, the over has hit.
Yeah, so
exactly. The points. These defenses stink.
Yeah, and I'm going to put a little hot take in there, too. I'm starting Jared Goff in Superflex. And I'm saying he puts up 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
I like that.
Obviously, TJ Hawk is getting one of them. I'm only saying that because if we look at the Ravens defense, I mean, they're last in the league against passing. So their pass defense is a little broken, a little beat up, obviously because of injuries, et cetera. They're giving up 752 yards. So it's like Jared Goff might have a day with that play action. So keep a close lookout on that.
I think part of the thing too, right, is teams have to pass on the Ravens because the Ravens can score seemingly at will. So I think that has part of it, as well. So I like that. And I like the Lions offense this week from a fantasy standpoint. I'm going to talk about another quarterback that I like. I don't know if I like the offense, but I like the quarterback. Daniel Jones is quarterback 4 through 2 weeks.
This is spicy. I looked at the show sheet. I'm like, maybe he meant to put 14, but I do like the matchup. I do like the matchup, and I feel it.
Here's the thing, right? If Daniel Jones can put up top 5 quarterback numbers against a Broncos defense, that is damn good. A Washington football defense, that is damn good. What's to say that he will put up numbers against a Falcons defense that is terrible? In the words of Charles Barkley, they are absolutely terrible.
I think he goes for another 90-yard rushing game. I'm just going to put it out there.
But even if he only goes for 45, 50, right? Like that's a safe floor. And I absolutely think that they could put up some numbers on this Falcons defense. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the teams they've played so far, they've been boat raced, and it hasn't particularly been close. I mean, Tom Brady made that Falcons defense look like they were still playing junior league ball. So I like Daniel Jones as a top 5 quarterback this week, so much to the point I am starting him over Dak Prescott in one of my leagues.
Whoa.
Yes. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Pump the brakes. I'm going to, whoa. Look, we're going to timestamp that. If you end up making out on this, I'm going to post this every day of the week.
All right. Bet.
That is insane.
I think that in week 3, Daniel Jones outscores Dak Prescott.
Oof, timestamped.
Boop. All right. Lock it in. We'll revisit this.
We will. That's crazy.
Goodness. All right, Elkie, what you got?
Going into the next question, well, the next bold in best bets, I definitely think Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant will each have a touchdown. That's not too far off. Actually, last week I was saying, hey, maybe this is the bounce back game for Cortland Sutton, and then he completely exploded, like out of nowhere. And even Noah Fant had a good game. You know, he had 16 fantasy points from what I remember, and I think this could be something we could see consistent. Now that Jerry Jeudy is sidelined, now that Noah Fant is stepping up, and he's healthy, because I know one of these games he's going to be sidelined with an ankle injury out of nowhere because it happened last year. He was on a hot streak, and then boom, injury. Yep. So I'm not going to get too excited. But again, Noah Fant, end zone, Cortland Sutton, end zone, lock it up. No Drew Lock.
Yeah, Teddy Two Gloves has looked incredible through the first 2 weeks. Now, the Broncos team has played the Giants and the Jaguars, so we'll see how it goes. But this week they played the Jets, so right there amongst those bottom feeders of the NFL, I think that offense puts up some numbers.
I mean, the Jets defense isn't terrible. It isn't terrible. They're middle of the pack. I'll just say that. They're middle of the pack because I believe they'll give them some type of a game. I just think this will be more so of a tired defense because Zach Wilson struggles again.
Yeah, that the line to me on this game. I mean, I understand that the Jets did not look great last week, and I understand that the Broncos are 2-0. Like I get it, but the line on this game just quite frankly just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm pretty sure that the Broncos are like 10-point favorites. That's a lot of points. So
it is.
We'll see how it goes. But all right, LQ, we want to get to the fantasy mailbag?
Yes, we do. Fantasy mailbag
right,
for the fantasy heat check. I got to have some type of like intro to come through there, like for a little transition in a segment. But my boy Blake from Twitter has a question, a wide receiver question. Standard league, rest of the season. Would you have Marvin Jones, Jarvis Landry, who is on IR right now, and Sterling Shepard? Who would you start for the rest of the season?
All right. Well, first off, I'm going to remove Landry. Just solely IR, tough. Even then, low volume passing offense. So it's between Marvin Jones and Sterling Shepard. Standard is what screws us up.
It does.
Right? It's standard in PPR. I don't think it's close. I think Shepard by a landslide. I'm still probably going to take Shepard, but I think it's really close between Shepard and Marvin Jones.
It's close. It is close. I was going to agree with you with Shepard, but I think Marvin Jones in PPR, he's still the number one wide receiver. Not much coming from LaVisca right now. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but honestly, Marvin Jones is the only wide receiver on that team that has red zone targets, and it's I love touchdowns. So I think we'll see a tick up in touchdowns over Jones. Well, over Shepard with Jones. So rest of the season, I might be leaning towards Marvin Jones slightly.
Yeah. Standard makes it tough. It
does make it tough
because I like both. Like both guys have looked really, really good. So moving on.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So the next one.
Brandon
you got it.
Twitter. Okay. All right. I'll get this one. Brandon from Twitter asks, would you trade Najee Harris and a third for Mixon? So we're talking dynasty.
Ooh. Najee Harris and a third for Joe Mixon. The future is looking bright for volume for Mixon. I think that's a lot, though, for Mixon. Don't you think? I think that's a lot. Najee Harris and a third?
I would agree. I do think it is quite a bit for Mixon. I have these guys pretty close. Mixon's only a little over a year, about a year and a half older than Najee Harris. So the age doesn't really concern me that much. I honestly, I think that's almost right on the head. Maybe Najee in a fourth instead of a third.
We're just Najee straight up. Najee straight up.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think you give any picks.
If you're that confident, I mean, those are two guys in Dynasty that I have right around the same level. I mean,
their futures are both like almost in line. The only difference with it obviously is like no Big Ben and a still poor offensive line, but Najee is going to get the volume that Mixon is probably going to get for the next couple of years as well. So that's the only difference maker. That's the deal breaker for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I mean, Mixon has looked good so far this year. Second in the league in rushing yards. Number one being Derrick Henry, obviously King Henry, and number three being Lamar Jackson. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, both guys have looked good. I don't think you can really make a wrong pick there either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're good either way. I just don't like that third in there. Take that away. Go straight up. Go straight up, Brandon. So the next mailbag question, Miguel, or I think I misspelled his name, but hey, who would you start? Tannehill versus the Colts or Fields versus the Browns? I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'm starting Tannehill.
Yeah, Tannehill.
I understand that Tannehill has not looked good through 2 weeks. At least week one, he looked really tough. I think his week two looks a lot different if they don't call that Julio Jones touchdown or overturn that. That was a touchdown. That was a touchdown. It was a touchdown.
Idiot refs.
So I think we're talking about Ryan Tannehill a little differently if that touchdown stands. So I'm going to take Tannehill versus the Colts. Xavier Rhodes practiced today, but he's not 100%. I think that Colts secondary has some issues. Justin Blackman's a really good safety, but I think their corners can be exposed. So, and with how good DeForest Buckner is and with how good Darius Leonard is, I think that the Titans will need to throw the ball a little bit in order to win this game. So give me Tannehill over Fields. I just don't trust Fields week one against the Browns. Where's that game at? We know
what game?
The Browns. So it's Bears on the road in Cleveland. Yeah. Give me Tannehill in this one.
Whoa, we got a comment in the section. What up, my boy? FF Season 1. I like how you spelled season with the swagger. What's up, fellas? In half PPR Superflex League, would you trade Carr, Jamar Chase for Diggs and Tua? 6-point passing TD league, while other QBs are Tannehill, Fields, and Lance. I'll let you take it away.
I don't think Tua has much value this year, to be honest. I get why. I get why you would be willing to look to move Carr, right? Because you're selling high.
Yeah, you're selling high. He's hot.
But at the same time, I think that what Derek Carr is doing is not that it's going to be the regular, but if you were to tell me that he would finish as a top 16, top 14 quarterback, I want to be stunned.
No,
right?
He's a top 12, back to back. Yeah, that's not bad.
So I would honestly leave that. I'm you could call me biased for being a Bengals fan, but when you look at, and I've watched both Bengals games the whole way through, they push the ball deep with Jamar Chase. That is what they do. He has 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. Like Joe Burrow has been clamoring during practice and beforehand that, hey, we need to be aggressive and get the ball in the hands of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase because they are both that good. I think the passing volume only goes up for the Bengals as they get more comfortable with Joe Burrow being healthy. So I don't think the gap between Jamar, like obviously Diggs is the better wide receiver, right? From a fantasy standpoint, real football standpoint, it is what it is. But I don't think that gap is big enough between Derek Carr, who's currently a top 10 quarterback, and Tua Tagovailoa, who I understand it says week to week. If he misses 4 to 6, I think that's probably a realistic expectation. And even then, at his peak healthy, which he won't be when he comes back right away, I don't think he's going to meet that production that Derek Carr does. So I'm going to say the Carr and Chase side for me personally.
Same, because the way I look at this is basically Carr and Chase for Diggs, and nah. Yep. Tua has no value here. And moving on to the next one. So you got it, Cody?
Yep. We'll do the next one. Harrison on Twitter asks, would you drop Robbie Anderson for Shepard?
The way it's looking right now, I would 100%. Terrace Marshall looking like he's about to lock up that wide receiver spot, even though they have the same amount of targets. They're both at 9 targets, but I think tonight it'll be telling of who's locking up that wide receiver 3 spot.
Yeah, the volume that Sterling Shepard has received has been incredible through the first 2 weeks.
It's giving me Robert Wood vibes.
The dude's looked really, really good. And quite frankly, he's been the best weapon on that Giants offense. And I would say he's definitely the best receiver, right? Like obviously once Saquon is healthy, Saquon is the best weapon on that offense. But
yeah, of course.
He's the best receiver on that team right now. And they spent $18.5 million a year on Kenny Galladay for him to yell at Jason Garrett on the sidelines. But Sterling Shepard's the best wide receiver on that team.
Yo, that is hilarious. FS Seasons 1 is back. I have another offer on the table. I would give up Chubb and Carr for Rodgers and Monty. This one really intrigued me, but super close both ways. Man. No, I don't like it, honestly. Mm-hmm. No, I want to keep Chubb. No.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page there. I think Chubb is one of the elite running backs in the NFL. Yeah. And not to hate on Monty, but his snap percentage is not ideal especially with where it was last year, right? And Damien Williams kind of hurts that a little bit, which we're not overly concerned about Damien Williams, or at least I'm not. But what does kind of concern me a little bit is with Justin Fields at quarterback, I think there are going to be more designed runs. And if that takes away 2 or 3 or 4 touchdowns away from Monty, then that kind of puts you in a pickle a little bit. So
that keeps him out of the top 10. I'll tell you that. If it's going to be a bunch of, Justin Fields, trying to rush it in and be a Josh Allen. So that could be an issue.
Stick with Chubb.
And I'm convinced Rodgers probably retires by week 8.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
The last dance is the dance tonight.
Talk about how are they underdogs to the 49ers this week? Like, what are we talking about?
That's wild to me.
I don't know.
I think it's because of the nonsense, the drama, just the bullshit. Yeah. Who knows, man? It'll get figured out.
Look, if you're going to let me bet on Aaron Rodgers as an underdog, I will take that all damn day.
Absolutely. For sure. Freaking absolutely.
For sure. All right, so
that
what we got?
The mailbag. That wraps up the mailbag. We can head out of here and look forward to tonight's game, and hopefully CMC puts up 54 points because I am 1-1 in one league, and I would like to be 2-1 when I, go into next week and do my McGregor walk. But Cody, what you got?
Hey, look, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all things social media, Real Deal Fantasy and Smash Hit Sports. Look, I have not been super active the last couple of days because, man, I have been under the weather, but an excellent slate of football this weekend. We got some great games, good Sunday night game. It should be exciting. So if you guys have, any questions, starts and sits and all that good stuff, Sunday morning, keep them coming, tweet at us, DM us, do whatever you got to do. We'll answer as many as we can. So, LQ, that's all I got. Send us home.
Yeah, man, you guys can follow me obviously at Real Deal Fantasy where you are watching. Make sure you like and subscribe on the video, and we'll see you next week. Damn, that was weird. That was like air and water mixed with spit. But anyway, we'll see you next week for another great episode of the Fantasy Heat Check, people. Peace.